2022 years have passed since a lot of things happened worldwide. The Ukraine war that started in February 2022 is still showing no sign of ending, and China continues to resist the United States and aim for Taiwan. When bored, North Korea flew missiles and drones. After 2022, when there was great military tension, it seems that the change in military power has also been significant. In 2023, we will also inform you of the new military power rankings of the world that have changed and why they are ranked. How high does your country rank? Start right now. 10th place. Italy, 11th last year. Europe's Italy took the top 10 spot. As a member of NATO, he participated in the military intervention in Libya, and he has been involved in peacekeeping activities in Afghanistan and Iraq for a long time. It is a country with a handful of armed forces with real combat experience. It has not stood out much in Europe, where there are many powerful countries, but it is a country that operates 2 aircraft carriers. Originally a country with a strong military, Italy felt a sense of crisis in the wake of the war in Ukraine and increased its defense budget. Based on the information available so far, it seems likely that about $35 billion will be spent on defense, an increase of about $1 billion or more, or 1.5% of GDP. 9th. France, 7th last year. 9th place was occupied by France, 2 places down from last year's 7th place. In the past, France suffered successive defeats in World War II, the Algerian War of Independence, and the Indochina War, and was stigmatized as an army that was good at surrendering, but now, as a permanent member of the UN Security Council, it is one of the major powers leading NATO. In addition, along with the United States, it is the only nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in the world, while also equipped with submarine-launched ballistic missiles. However, as with most European countries, the current economic situation has not been so good that it is unclear whether France will be able to maintain its status as a great power in the future. 8th place. Japan, 5th last year. In 8th place is Japan, a whopping 3 places down. Japan, a defeated country in World War II, originally should have no army, but since the 21st century, the self-defense forces have been gradually strengthened. In particular, unlike in the past when China was described as a concern of the international community. The National Security Strategy announced on December 16 last year defined China as the greatest strategic challenge ever. Thus, it declared that it would have a counterattack capability capable of attacking Chinese bases. So far, Japan has used less than 1% of its total GDP for defense, but in the future, it broke that principle and announced that it would drastically increase it to the level of 2%. In fact, the defense budget for 2023 was also organized at the level of $65 billion, which is 1.19% of Japan's GDP. Of course, not only the amount, but also the actual power is getting stronger. Japan has launched 6 Mogami-class multi-purpose frigates in 2022, and has also begun renovation work to mount F-35B fighter jets on Kaga, the second Izumo-class ship. It is even trying to purchase 500 Tomahawks, an American cruise missile. 7th place. Pakistan, 9th last year. In 7th place is Pakistan, 2 places up from last year. Pakistan is somewhat unknown because of its neighboring country, India, but it is a country that has steadily strengthened its military power by fighting 4 wars due to a long confrontation with India. It is also a military power with 650,000 regular troops and close to 1 million troops including paramilitary organizations. Besides, as the saying goes, the enemy of an enemy is a friend. Pakistan has a very close relationship with China, India's enemy. It is to the extent that the main tank of the Pakistan army is operated by improving Chinese tanks. In addition, it is operating not only the American F-16 fighters introduced before nuclear development, but also the Chinese JF-17 fighters and even the Mirage fighters produced in France. However, the recent collapse of the Belt and Road Initiative with China and a record-breaking flood that submerged 33% of the country's territory have made Pakistan's economy very bad. So, it is uncertain whether the military power will be strengthened in the future. 6th place. South Korea, 6th place last year. South Korea took 6th place. Not only North Korea, which threatens with nuclear weapons right in front of Seoul, but also China and Japan frantically reinforce their military power, so South Korea naturally increases its defense budget to strengthen its military power. Last year, we spent $55 billion on defense. This year, $57 billion was allocated to defense, an increase of 4.6%. It plans to spend $330 billion over the next 5 years, an average of $66 billion per year. Last year, The first KF-21 successfully flew, the King Zhongzhou-class Aegis destroyer was launched, a submarine-launched ballistic missile and a supersonic cruise missile were launched, and a test launch of a solid-fuel space launch vehicle was successful a while ago. In the future, South Korea's military power will be further strengthened by completing the 230mm class multiple launch gun, light aircraft carrier, the second project for large transport aircraft, and the introduction of military reconnaissance satellites. 5th place. UK, 8th place last year. In 5th place is the United Kingdom, a member of NATO and a permanent member of the UN Security Council. It has risen 3 places from last year's 8th place. As the Russian threat to Europe has intensified in recent years, the British Ministry of Defence is known to be increasing its forces and introducing new weapons such as warships, fighter jets and long-range rocket artillery. To this end, it was decided to increase the defence budget to 2.5% of GDP by 2028. However, the future for the British military is not entirely bright. The UK is experiencing the worst inflation in 40 years due to rising prices of food and oil due to the war in Ukraine. It is unclear whether the UK will remain a military powerhouse as the economy remains uncertain. 4th place. India, 4th place last year. 4th place is occupied by India, whose population is growing at a breakneck pace. India has been in constant border disputes with China as well as Pakistan since its founding. Because of this, it has 1.4 million troops, which is the second largest in the world, and is the third largest defense budget in the world. In addition, although not well known, strategic weapons include aircraft carriers, ICBMs, SLBMs, and even nuclear weapons. But it's also a country with very poor weapons, like the infamous INSAS rifles, HAL Tejas fighters, and Arjun tanks. It has developed and used many types of weapons in its country, from rifles to fighter jets, but at the same time, it is also famous for using a lot of Russian weapons. In addition, as the conflict with China intensifies in recent years, India's military power is expected to continue to strengthen. India is also trying to gain an edge in border disputes with China by introducing large numbers of South Korean K-9 self-propelled howitzers. 3rd place. China, 3rd place last year. The 3rd place is occupied by China, which has the largest military force in the world. In the Pacific, we are competing with Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and the United States, and are striving to seize hegemony in East Asia. There are a whopping 3.9 million Chinese troops, and 2.25 million even excluding armed police units. In particular, the Navy, which has greatly strengthened its power in recent years, cannot be ignored. China has 777 warships, more than the US. But China's future is not so bright. Due to the rapidly spreading virus, the massive exodus of foreign investors, and the instability of the real estate market, which accounts for 33% of China's GDP, it is questionable whether the military strength based on economic power will continue like last year. 2nd place. Russia, 2nd place last year. In 2nd place, as expected, is Russia. Russian invasion of Ukraine in February of last year exposed the incompetence of the Russian military to the world, but Russia is still Russia. It is still the largest in the world in terms of armored equipment such as tanks, self-propelled guns, field artillery, and multiple launch rockets, as well as frigates and mines. And the only one on Earth that possesses enormous nuclear power enough to wage a nuclear war with the United States, and is also the world's second largest arms exporter. However, this Russia has too many internal problems such as corruption, low administrative power, and inefficient logistics system, along with chronic economic stagnation. So, it is also a country that is difficult to easily gauge its strength simply by looking at the numbers. As was revealed in this invasion of Ukraine. First, USA, always number 1. The number 1 is always the United States, so it's a bit boring. Unsurprisingly, the United States is a superpower with the world's number 1 army, navy, and air force. Moreover, as the economy showed signs of recovery after the virus pandemic, more money was spent on defense. In 2023, USA have set an enormous amount of $100 million for the defense budget. This represents an 8.1% increase over the previous year's budget and 64.5% of the combined defense spending of all countries in the world. So, although China is currently spending a lot of money on defense to catch up with the United States, it is expected that it will still be decades away from catching up with the United States. Well, there's nothing more to say. In this video, we looked at the top 10 global defense power in 2023. So, I would appreciate it if those who watched it just for fun. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and like it, and I will come back with a more enjoyable and informative video. Thank you.